Welcome back to IGN Live here at Gamescom 2018. We are talking about a game that's a racing game, but not just any racing game. We are talking about Team Sonic Racing, and here to talk with me is Derek. Hey, Derek.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm so excited to talk about this game. I love these types of just like fun racers.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a fun racer. I hope it is.
I mean, it looks very fun. So let's just start with, I mean, it's literally in the name, Team. So what made you and your team want to focus on making a racing game around that mechanic?
Well, it's funny because when we started doing it, obviously it wasn't like, you know, like an idea of like a cooperative racing game was not really a thing. These days it feels like it's almost becoming like a genre of its own. But you know, the initial idea came from Sega, Izuka-san, Sega, who's kind of the head of all things Sonic at Sega. He had an idea that he wanted to explore. He wanted to have the ability to play the game with his children, play a racing game with his children, and they're not as good at games as he is, and he wanted to have a racing game where he could still have like a positive experience with them. You know? And you know, I understand that, you know, playing games with people who are not as, you know, who don't spend their lives playing games like, you know, we do. You know, it's nice to be able to play games with them and still be able to, you know, do fun, you know, have fun with them. And when you play Team Sonic Racing, you can play the game together, play as a team, and win as a team. So you know, it becomes a really positive experience for you.
So, okay, there's a few things you said that I'd love to touch on. First, you choose your own character. Now, are the characters' teams already pre-selected, or everybody gets to choose their own character?
So in we have a range of different modes in the game. In the Team Adventure mode, which is like the you know, it's a succession of different types of events and races and challenges with a light story wrapped around it. In that mode, the teams are set because the story is kind of about those teams. In all other modes, and particularly when you play online, you can select whichever character you want, and you can mix and match the teams however you want. So, you know, if you want a team of, you know, all the hedgehogs, then you can have Sonic and Shadow and Silver. You can also have all of the same characters. So, you know, if you want a team that is, you know, big 3 times, then you can have a team entirely of bigs. And,
yeah, that's
you know,
nice, because I feel like sometimes it turns into a death match of who can pick the character the fastest. It's a whole other competition within the competition. So you mentioned playing co-op. What kind of like cooperative mechanisms can we find in this game?
So there's a range of team actions that you can perform. So, you know, one of them is a slingshot. So you'll see teammates will leave a yellow trail behind them. You can see just here, just dropping the trail behind them there. If you sit in that for a little bit, you can charge up a boost and then use that to, you know, get the edge on the opposition. There's a move called a skin boost, which, you know, if you played these sorts of games, you get spun out by an item. You're sat there waiting to speed back up. It's a bit frustrating. In this game, if a teammate skims past you, they can kind of catapult you back up to speed and get you back into the action. You can also swap items with each other. So, you know, if you've got an item, you're at the front of the pack, but, you know, you've got a teammate, you know, back in 12th, really struggling, you can pass them an item. And when you pass it to them, it transforms into something more powerful. So, you know, there's lots of opportunities for looking out for ways to help your teammate. And it also doesn't matter where they are on the track. Regardless of their position on the track, there's always something you can do team-based to help them out.
So as far as the items go, can your teammate just take your item? Like, is it kind of like an item bank for your whole team, or is it something where you give them your item?
You have to offer, and they have to request. You know, it's absolutely I can see it be a bit frustrating if people kept swiping your items from you.
I was thinking of somebody in particular where I was like, if I ever play this game with them, they're definitely going to just steal all of my items.
Yeah.
So speaking of items, what kind of items can we expect?
So we've based the items in the game all around the wisps from the Sonic games. Many of them will be familiar from previous Sonic games. You saw the blue cube there. There's things like the orange rocket, the crimson eagle, which is a homing rocket, the black bomb that's exploding there. A few more kind of the more powerful ones are things like the grey quake, ivory lightning. We've also got, there's a little kind of Easter eggy item in there for Sonic fans, which actually isn't a wisp, but is the invincibility item. That just pops up every so often. And in certain tracks, there's certain places like high skill areas you can get to where you can get the invincibility pickup. And we're also introducing some new wisps to the Sonic universe as well, which has been quite exciting. We've been working with Sonic team in Japan to get kind of approval for the concepts of those. So that's been an exciting thing to do as well.
So this map that we're watching right now, this is Ice Mountain, and this is the debut of this map, correct?
Yes, it is.
So this is adapted from Sonic Advance? Is it adapted from Sonic Advance?
Yes, it's Ice Cap Zone, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are all the maps adaptations of Sonic levels that we've seen before?
Yeah, we've got, so the game has 21 tracks in it in total. That's split into 7 zones, and the zones are picked from, games throughout Sonic history. So we do go, way back. I think the earliest is probably some tracks from Sonic 3. But we've kind of gotten through Sonic's history, and the locations are new, but they're all based on these classic Sonic locations. And again, for the fans, there's some Easter eggs in there and nice things that I think they'll be discovering after we launch.
So it's more than just playing a racing game.
Yeah.
You're appreciating.
Something we found, coming to making a pure Sonic game. Generally is that there's so much history there. There's so much to be explored, and so much for us to understand as well about what things are appropriate in the Sonic universe and what things aren't. But yeah, it's very much a true Sonic game.
Yeah. So I'm noticing that on the left side, there's no real ranking. Like the teams are ranked together.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So at the end of the race, you get scores for individual positions, and that then is totaled up for your team. And the team with the highest score wins. And so those rankings at the side are representing the real-time updates to those rankings. And basically, the way to win the game is to make sure that everyone on your team finishes in as high a position as possible. So you can play it as like a lone wolf and just go off and try and finish first. But if you're not helping your teammates, then they're struggling to finish. You're not going to win as a team.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to be, as I say, we've got these different actions that allow you to help your teammates, and you need to be using them constantly to help them finish in as high a position as possible.
So when you're choosing your character, is the cart part of the character, or do you also choose a cart?
Yes, the cart is part of the character, but we do have we haven't gone deep on how this works yet because we're saving that for a future date. But we do have a customization system in the game that allows you to customize both the performance of your vehicle and the appearance of it. And there's lots. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of combinations of these things, and it allows you to really fine tune your characters. To say, like me, I'm a Tails player. I love playing as Tails. I like to customize him, with slightly better speed and things like that to just give me the edge in races. But yes, it's there's lots and lots of room for fine tuning your particular performance and the appearance of your car. And I mean, we've had people ask, where's the transformation from the previous games? And I think we don't have the transformation system anymore, but what we have is the customization system, which I think, when you start getting into it, has at least as much depth as that, if not more.
So I think you mentioned this earlier about playing games with people who are much better than you and just not really having a very good time. Is there anything in here since it is a team game, to kind of accommodate if maybe you want to play a racer with somebody who isn't as good and kind of help them still have fun? Yeah,
so I mean, the team adventure mode starts, that's it's a bit of a training experience. There's tutorials that run through it, and over the course of the team adventure mode, you go from having races that are just 3v3 races up to the full 12 racer experience. You can play through that team adventure mode with up to 3 players in split screen, and as a result, you can take these other people through that training experience and be there with them, helping them to learn the rules of the game. And then, you can take that skills, when those guys have been through it and they're, crack TSR players, you can take those experiences online and you can actually mix split screen play with online play in the game. And that, for me, is the best way to play it, which is, you and 2 friends sat on the sofa playing split screen, playing against players across the world. And that's the best of it for me.
Yeah. So one more question about when you pick your characters, does each character handle the same or differently? Like, are some characters maybe slower but can go through grass, for example? Yeah, so we have 3 types of characters in the game. There's speed type characters, Sonic and Shadow, obviously. They have, obviously, the highest top speed, but they're a little heavier with the handling. Their acceleration isn't as good. There's technique characters who have higher acceleration and are more nimble. And then there's power characters like Knuckles and Omega who
They're kind of the bruisers of the pack, so they can kind of bash their way through other racers, but they're quite slow to get going. Each of those types of characters also has their own special ability in a race. So power characters can blast through hazards without suffering any penalty to their speed. There's certain tracks where these are set up so they can even like bash through walls to find special routes. Technique characters can go across grass, as is happening here. You don't lose any speed when you're passing across that as a technique character. And then speed characters, they have when you do a drift with them, if you do up to a level 2 drift, you get a radial burst, which knocks projectiles out of the sky.
Oh, cool.
So if you're drifting and you've got a rocket coming in, you do a radial burst and it knocks it out. So they all have not only their own handling, but also their own abilities, which means that every single track, there's a different optimal route for a different type of character.
Interesting.
So in terms of the time trialing, I mean, we're seeing it a lot now with the playtesting we're doing. There's a lot of work to do to kind of discover which is the best character for each track, because each has a slightly different route they ideally would take.
Wow. Well, that's super interesting. And I mean, that's super fun because it's just everything, every time could be different.
Yeah, it's
so
cool.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to get my hands on this. Stick around. More Gamescom 2018. We'll be back after this break.